Hi, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new year. Welcome to 2023 and a brand new series of the virtual world on LinkedIn Live and also through all your regular podcast services if you wish to listen as a follow-on. And I'm so excited today to welcome actually back a dear friend of mine and great colleague and a man of great experience, Richard Orme, who's going to take us through why business leaders, particularly in the SME space, should really care about the Metaverse and Web 3.0. So, Rich, thank you for joining.
My pleasure, Nigel. Great to be back.
Fantastic. Listen, I always do this kind of thing where actually sometimes I forgot to do it, but I'm going to make sure I really commit as my New Year resolution to commit to this one big question. Have you brought something with you that really means a lot in your career or in your life? What can you share that's meaningful today?
Well, just so happens, I have the one award that I won. So let me give you a bit of a background to my career. I spent the last 15, 20 years working in the yachting industry. And when I exited that business, I set up a non-profit called Clear Ocean Pact. And the whole mission of Clear Ocean Pact was to reduce the consumption of single-use plastics in yachting. So this was back in 2018. And the pact's still up and running, having a great impact in helping super yachts follow a pact to reduce their single-use plastic. So I'm very proud of it. But when we launched the non-profit, we were recognised by the PEA Awards, People, Environment, and Achievement Awards. It's been a while since I've had to remember them. And they recognised the Clear Ocean Pact for our impact to the travel industry. Now, it's the largest green award in the UK, and we won that back in 2018. And they proudly awarded us this lovely trophy, which is the only trophy
Fantastic.
What do you reckon? Can you see?
That's fabulous.
Yeah, PA awards for travel.
Well, mate, very proud of you for doing that. I know you're very keen on sustainability and helping businesses become more environmentally friendly. So big round of applause and thank you very much. Continue that effort. I know that SME, which is your company.
It's a real core value of what I've done in all of the business, specifically with SME Exec, in terms of the transition actually from what we were doing in single-use plastics to actually creating sustainability programs for all types of businesses is now a big part of what we do.
Fantastic. Actually, it kind of links to the topic of today, actually, but we can maybe weave that into some of your answers today. So listen, again, thanks for joining. It's great to see you. And I guess you'll be the first person I say I wish you a very happy and prosperous 2023. So listen, Rich, I just want to delve into something here. What trends are you seeing in the SME space at the moment? What's hot and what's not?
That's a great question. What's hot and what's not? I can only talk from my personal experiences of the partners that we're working with. And we're working with SME companies of all sizes and all sectors, really. And they range from small startups, entrepreneurs, to larger businesses with revenues over 100 million a year. And what's hot, funny enough, is sustainability, specifically with the larger SMEs, how to engage their teams, often over 300 to 400 people, with the right type of mindset. So I'm seeing a real conscious decision from senior leaders, business leaders of these larger SMEs, wanting to integrate better sustainability practices that fall in line with the UN guidelines. So what we see and what we do is try and break that down for them. So in terms of putting programs in place that are more changes of behaviours, so they can be implemented effectively within these quite large organisations. So it's about changing people's behaviors within those companies for those companies still to generate the revenue they need to create a profit within their targets and to keep all their stakeholders happy, but doing that in a more sustainable way. So sustainability is really coming through, and revenue and growth, really. Everyone likes to start the new year with their targets. A number of our businesses are already quite established. Some still don't have their revenue streams, but it's around how to build their predictable revenue streams. So in a nutshell, I would say what's hot is creating predictable revenue and doing that in the most sustainable way.
Excellent. I think revenue is always going to be a hot topic.
Well,
it's getting harder to find, right? The economy's in severe turbulence globally. There are a lot of drivers that are making it very difficult for organizations, no matter what size, to try and figure out how they get and keep those revenue streams. But I guess we're going to be talking about that in a bit. But I think getting into the meat of the conversation, and I guess you and I have been talking about it for quite some time. The whole terminology of the metaverse is very confusing. I call it the Wild West, which it is. It is because of its confusion and a lot of organizations not understanding what it is and what it is not, particularly around the SME space. I think it's causing a lot of people a lot of confusion. So, this is something that you've been around for quite some time, and I know you've created some philosophy really for how it really applies to the SME space. So for our listeners, could you really kind of help us understand the difference between what the metaverse is and what Web 3.0 is?
Yeah, sure. And I think this is a really important place to start. It's a very hot topic, metaverse, and it has been all of the latter part of last year and potentially the year before. And a lot of the people that I speak to, that are either our partners or other business leaders, there's always this conversion of what is it? Where do I go to see it? How do I adopt it? Why do I need to adopt it? And it first comes down to understanding where we are or where the industry is. And it's very much in its infancy stage. You've also got the likes of Facebook rebranding to Meta. You've got the history of Bitcoin and blockchain technology that's been here for about a decade now. And the way I see it is that the metaverse forms part of what we call Web 3, which is the third version of the internet. So you've got Web 1, Web 2, and now we're entering into the Web 3 phase. Web 1 being the early websites that we all know and remember back in the...
I was around for Web 1.
I know, so was I.
My grey hair.
So yeah, very simple terms. Web 1 was your static website where you posted some information about your business or whatever you're posting information about, and it was effectively a notice board. Web 2 came into more interaction, the social media aspect of it, where people could post online, call it the Facebook kind of evolution. What Web 3 is, in my interpretation, it forms of three pillars, really. So if SME leaders consider Web 3, it's effectively the internet. So Web 3 is just a new version of the internet. The internet's not going to change. The infrastructure, how you access it, that's always going to be the same. But Web 3 is the new form of internet, which is formed up of metaverse, blockchain technology, and tokenized economics. So when you think about the metaverse, that's effectively new versions of people's websites. It's a more immersive website experience. That's the way I view a metaverse, where you have a standard website which is interactive, but you access it via a screen, where metaverse is going to be a more immersive 3D experience of the same type of information that you're getting from standard websites. So the next pillar would be blockchain technology. Then this really kind originated through the launch of Bitcoin and how Bitcoin works with the mutable ledgers. What blockchain technology enables people to do is to effectively decentralize and have ownership of their own digital data. But there's many different applications to what blockchain technology can do for businesses in terms of tracking logistics, transparency, open ledgers, and obviously the obvious of Bitcoin and transactions. Then you've got the third pillar, which is tokenized economics, which is obviously the transaction of value, which is based on the blockchain as well, crypto effectively. Now, crypto tokens aren't just money. They're forms of applications, or dApps as they're called. And a token is if you like, the fuel that helps that dApp operate in a decentralized manner. So Metaverse and Web3, I think, are different things. I think Metaverse falls under the umbrella of what Web3 is. So in simple terms, Web3 is the new version of the internet, which is going to be formed with those three key pillars at this moment in time. It's still very much in its infancy. There will be new aspects to it. And Metaverse is if you like, the new platform, the new form of website that will be, forming the Web3 evolution.
So it feels like, I mean, we're quite kind of lucky, even here, Iceberg Creator, but we're very lucky that we understand your acronyms. We understand the terminology. We understand the technology that underpins what this new era of distribution for products and services and financial transactions, basic commercial economics really means. But for a lot of people out there, it's really difficult to understand how these really apply. So why should business owners and leaders, particularly in the SME space, large organizations have the luxury, I guess, of drawing in lots of consulting expertise, lots of consulting information and awareness about this space. But particularly when SME owners and business leaders within kind of large organizations in that bracket, why should they really care about the Metaverse and Web 3.0? This has been around for, I remember, as we talked earlier, Web 1, if you want to call it that, where we're doing some quite funky stuff with the likes of Godiva and lots of other big organizations, and actually getting people to transact. So it's been evolving, but now we're in this new era. So why should they care?
It's a great question. I would say, let's go back 20 years again. And why would a business owner in the early 2000s care to have a website? It's the same type of conversation. That's how early on we are in the adoption of Metaverse within the business environment. So there's many reasons why people should care to have a website. Now, every business does have one. But if you were to have that conversation back in the late 90s, early 2000s, if not 2005 and onwards, you'd have to go, well, why do I need a web page? I've been running this business for decades and we're just fine. But it's the evolution of the demand from their customers, the way that business generates revenue. Without a website now, how do businesses generate revenue? It'd be very, very difficult. That it has so much impact, and that's where we are with. Let's break it down to the Metaverse as the new form of website, and let's park the different aspects of Web3 right now in this conversation. I think it's easier to understand. Let's park decentralization or blockchain technology. Let's park cryptocurrency applications within businesses. Let's just focus on the Metaverse application, the adoption of the Metaverse for business. It's the upgrading of their website. That's how I see it. So if a business has a standard website, which all, if not majority, do, it's the next evolution of how your website is going to be presented to your clients. So as I said before, currently people go to their computer or their mobile phone. They've got an internet browser, and they go into Google, they search what they're looking for, and they find a website and they read the information. There's some interaction, but it's very much based in Web 2 technology. With Metaverse, people will still go to their computer or their phone. They'll still go to their internet browser, and they'll still find the website of the business that they're looking for. But within that business website, there will be the option or link to access that company's Metaverse page, if you like, but it won't be a page. It's going to be an immersive experience. So the journey that customers are going to start taking will be, they'll be finding businesses online as they usually do, or looking at more information on that business online. But how they engage and how they interact with that particular brand can be, and I think will be done predominantly via that brand's Metaverse page. Yeah. So I think what's really important to understand, there isn't going to be just one Metaverse. There isn't just going to be Facebook's Meta or Decentraland or one universe that every business is going to go to. I think the early adoption of the Metaverse is where each business will effectively upgrade their website to have that Metaverse application within it. So customers can access their website as they usually do, and then they can enter into that Metaverse, which will have different aspects of promoting, selling, reinforcing, communicating, building community, networking, sales and marketing for that particular brand. So why should they care? It's because this is happening, and they'll care more when their competitors are doing it, and they're not. And it's about understanding the applications of what Metaverse can do for them.
Yeah, and I think for us, we in terms of the definition description, again, we want to try and keep it very simple for everyone to understand. But these what you're describing is a really enhanced experience. What a lot of people call about all these different virtual worlds. Yeah, that's true. You can call it a virtual world if you want. But however, what Web3 and what the Metaverse will do, I think, is really open up the ability or the kind of channels of access into a corporate product or services. People put a headset on and have a completely different experience. That is a new channel. That is a channel that wasn't open to anyone in Web 2 or pre-Metaverse. It was really, it was a gaming world, a gaming experience. And now that is being totally unlocked. And so I think, I think you're right. It's about, will a business owner kind of see the train of the Metaverse go right past them and miss it? Well, they're going to care if they miss it. I mean, that's going to have a devastating effect. So I think,
I don't think they're going to miss it entirely. They just might miss the opportunity before their competitors do. I think inevitably everyone will have some form of Metaverse within their business, arsenal, if you like, of marketing tools. Let's just take one aspect of every website out there to kind of simplify this a little bit. Every website will have an About Us page with that business. It generally describes the team, their history, the journey they're on, their mission statements. Within a Metaverse application, you could have a much more immersive experience with the people looking at your brand around the About Us section. So instead of physically reading copy or seeing profile images of the team, they could go into that Metaverse application through that brand's website and have an interactive conversation with the avatar of those people in the business. And this can be done in real time, 24/7. So just that one aspect of a standard static website, you can see how impacting the Metaverse application is going to be for giving customers a much more immersive experience in terms of understanding who they are. And then you can look at the service page, contacts page, the communication aspect of the business can all be done in a much more immersive environment. the key thing at the moment in time is that people don't have the hardware just to pop into the metaverse. They don't walk around with their Oculus headsets on. So that's why
Like when the Apple finally come out and release theirs, that everyone might have.
So that's why people
yeah.
Exactly. So that's why people find it hard to get their head around, or business leaders find it hard to get it. Oh, why do I need to care about this now? Because no one's really accessing it. But that's not going to be always. That's not always going to be the case, right? The hardware will catch up. So we're in the early adoption phase of what the metaverse is, and it's forming. As we speak, really. The next phase will happen when you've got more mass adoption happening, is when the hardware becomes much more accessible, whether that's contact lenses or glasses that people wear, or it's through the phone or whatever. We don't know quite yet. And that's it. No one really knows.
Compute power for those that don't need an immersive experience for Web 3.0, just a non-headset experience. You can still have it, but it does require more compute power, which is, again, goes back to the whole sustainability question.
Well, yeah, you're the expert in that. How do people?
Thank you for saying that. I'm not quite sure. I'm the expert. I know a whole bunch of people next door are, but
how do people engage with the metaverse without the hardware? Is that possible?
It's very well. I think the whole it's very interesting how the market's moving, and I think there's lots of again. I love this conversation we're having, because actually I know that you and I are going to have. Really, this is a theme set of podcasts and LinkedIn Live events. This is not the only one. We're going to get deeper into how SME Exec, your business, can really help business leaders start thinking, start strategizing, and actually give them real life tools and techniques to get into the space. Again, more about that later. But I think the next question I have, following on from this whole caring aspect, is really, what is it for those that do care? What is the priority? What's the SH1T? Why should I give an SH1T about this? What is the kind of number one priority, do you think, why business leaders should not watch their competition be first into the space? Why should they kind of think about it now? What's the thing?
Revenue, in one word, revenue. Every business.
Revenue.
Sorry? You broke up then.
Yeah, that's a carry on. Yeah. I love revenue, but carry on.
Yeah, revenue. Every business needs revenue to survive. I think every business needs to understand how their revenue is structured and what the pillars of revenue are formed of, so they can improve that if they need to. For the business leaders that do care about or understand that metaverse is a thing that is coming under the umbrella of Web3, their first area to look at will be their own existing revenue streams of their business. And that's where we're starting the conversation with our partners is, okay, well, let's look at your existing Terraverse business model and understand fully exactly the aspects of how you're generating your revenue. And we break that down into kind of 3 bite-sized pieces for people to understand. We break it down into demand of the industry or the sector that they're in. We break it down into competition, and the next is the reasons. So it's demand, competition, and reasons. Those 3 pillars form the strategy around building the predictable revenue that SMEs need to organically grow. So for those that care about the metaverse or the application of the metaverse under Web3 will have a significant impact on how their revenue streams are coming into their business. So let's break it down. At the moment, if we look at just the demand aspect, it's going to be pretty low because people aren't in the metaverse. It's not interoperable. We talked about metaverse early phase where each business will have its metaverse, but the next phase I see is being the interoperability of metaverses. So they're built in the same code. So like websites can interact with each other. That will come. And when that comes, that's when the real demand of new revenue streams will be filtering into SME businesses. So the demand isn't there just yet. But if you look at your competition, probably again, not, you know, it's not a big factor in terms of why I should be adopting the metaverse, because your competition aren't doing it yet. But maybe that's a good reason to do it. You can be ahead of your competition already. But the real reasons is reasons. You know, what are the reasons your customers choose your business? And if you look at what breaks down different reasons, predominantly, you know, you have brand, you have efficiency, you have sales and marketing, you have team, you have impact, and you have culture. All those aspects of the reasons why your customers are choosing your company will be affected by immersive technology or metaverse applications. So, in a nutshell, I think it's down to revenue. You know, understanding where your revenue streams are now and how they're controlled, and the ability you have to affect on those, and looking at various aspects of those reasons and seeing where you could get a jump start on your competition by adopting a metaverse application to improve, for example, your sales and marketing campaign. You know, how much easier would it be for you to promote your services to someone in a more immersive environment? How much easier would it be to provide the services that you offer to your clients through a metaverse, through an immersive environment, whatever that may be? Then you can also go a stage further to look at the individual digital ownership aspect of Web3 with NFT technology, for example, and how that can improve you know, the logistics of a supply business. You know, these things are happening now. But if business owners of SMEs are considering what metaverse is and how that will affect their business, my advice would be to first look at their existing revenue streams and see where the early adoption of metaverse can have an impact on that, with the reasons that why their customers are choosing them over their competition.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of safety in what you said about the revenue aspect, because it's nothing new. And I think, you know, if you look at the great Geoffrey Moore, when he wrote Crossing the Chasm, which was about going across from early adopter all the way through to late majority, you know, and having the mainstream in the middle, which is the top of the curve, and everyone's in the market buying your product and services. If you dissect that, it's all about revenue. So, you know, it's all about early adopter, early mainstream, and so on. So, but revenue is a kind of the core element of what we're trying to achieve in a business. Again, we can't function without it, and we need it to, you know, we need the metaverse or Web3 kind of line item to be in the P&L, I guess, fairly soon, to be able to see the margin attainment from those revenue streams. I think, again, it's just, there's something comforting in what you're saying, because it's obvious. You know, this is not about stripping out waste and inefficiencies, even though I think the industrial metaverse, which is the kind of the cousin to this, will be about efficiency. But, you know, in larger organizations, I think the SME space has got to be initially driving to the revenue, and I think the operational efficiencies will come next. I think, you know, something safe in what you're saying, I guess. And so I think, you know, for listeners, what, you know, you've said a lot of great things here. What do they do now? And I know you created an incredible business called SME Exec, really helping business leaders and owners of businesses kind of grapple with core problems and challenges that they're facing. So where do they go? I think I've got a little slide here, but maybe you just talk about, you know, if someone's interested, I want to talk to Rich about Web 3.0. I want to talk to Rich and SME Exec about the metaverse. Where do they go? You know, on this page, SMEexec.com, what can they do? That's
a great question.
Great questions today, aren't they?
Okay, so we offer a pro bono Web3 advisory service to SME business leaders.
Oh, wow.
So within that free consultation period, we start by just asking the question, is how do they think the metaverse will affect their revenue? And that's where we start. So when there's a clear or common understanding of what the metaverse is going to be, as I've described earlier, the next version of their website, we work with them to understand how that application, how other metaverse applications with their competitors can affect their revenue streams. And so we start by evaluating how they're generating revenue now, and then we pull apart the different aspects of that to see what technology is available now for them to start considering into their business model. But you're absolutely right. You mentioned earlier, it's something that all business leaders, especially SMEs that are so tied to generating revenue, need to be putting this in their strategies, in their 2-3 year plan strategies, because the faster the adoption, the more applicable it's going to be to their revenue streams coming into their business. So that's how we help at this stage. We first sit down with business leaders. We understand what they're doing now in the Metaverse, in normal existing business life, and then we work with them in all kinds of different industry and sectors and services, manufacturing, recruitment, technology, all different types of sectors, and see how they're generating their revenue, and see which aspects of metaverse adoption can be taken on now and which they should be considering in the future. Whether that's, let's take another example that we worked on recently. It's training staff. We're all so used to Zoom and communicating and working with colleagues and potentially meetings with customers over Zoom, how that can be done in an immersive experience, specifically around training.
Oh yeah, we are. I mean, we as a company, we are just so excited about the opportunities and seeing loads of. We're having great conversations with some pretty, large organisations about this, and we're very excited about training development. But also, I think, taking. This is probably going on for another podcast, but think about how the supply chain works. But Rich, I'm in awe of what you have done for SMEexec.com, and I think congratulations, number one, for setting it up. And I'm very excited about how we begin to get deeper into you supporting and having conversations through LinkedIn Live and through the podcast we're doing today about what tools and techniques and the strategies that you can do. So I think everyone on the call, please visit SMEexec.com, and Rich will be coming back on in a couple of weeks' time, actually getting into detail about what steps you need to take place. So Rich, I want to thank you for your time today. Again, if I said to you, what was your parting gift of thinking? I kind of guessed. I know you're going to be saying, "Hey, think about the Metaverse and Web 3.0 as a revenue." Is there anything else? I know I'm throwing it out pretty last minute, but anything else that you'd want to, last words of wisdom that you would want to give the listener?
Oh, words of wisdom.
You have many.
Yeah, I do. My mind is flooding full of them. I think the words of wisdom is
don't pull off an electric bike, perhaps.
Yeah, don't damage yourself. It's about understanding at this stage. We are very much in early adoption phase, and not rushing in, but considering the future aspects, the future adoption of this technology and the impact it has on your business. That's my words of wisdom right now. It's just about considering what you can do and what you believe is going to come in the future, and how you can prepare your business to be future-proof for this adoption. So, we've been here before when the internet was invented and people started building websites, right? But we hadn't had that type of technology before the form of the internet. So no one was really thinking about the impact of what it could do. We've got a better idea now, 20 years or so later down the line, of the potential impact Metaverse or Web3 will have on SME businesses. So it's about looking at the past to kind of plan the future of what potentially could happen. And, my caveat is no one really knows. No one really knows what the metaverse is going to look like for each business or how they're going to connect, how it's going to impact companies. But it is happening, and now's the time to be strategically considering the strategy for SME businesses to adopt this technology now and in the future.
Very wise, very wise. Well, Rich,
for you?
yeah, that was so wise. I haven't got a response to it.
I love that.
End up being very wise, which is great. So thank you very much, Rich. Thank you for your time, buddy.
My pleasure.
Stay blessed. Stay warm. I know it's a bit cold outside. And again, Rich fell off his electric bike and has hurt his knee. So don't get on the electric bike. That's probably your words of wisdom. But I will talk to you very soon. And thank you very much, as always.
Well, Nigel, really grateful for your opportunity to have these chats. I'm looking forward to the next series. It's going to be good fun.
Great. Thanks, Rich. Take care.
Cheers.